Energy healing, I'm going to explain what Reiki is. Reiki is a Japanese form of energy healing, and it's an alternative type of medicine. In the UK, Reiki is actually used in the NHS. Reiki practitioners use a technique called palm healing or hands-on healing, through which, according to practitioners, a universal energy, the word ki is energy in Japanese, but Reiki is universal. So Rei is universe, ki is energy, so universal energy, is transferred through the palms of the practitioner to the patient to encourage emotional or physical healing. Now, some people would say Reiki is a pseudoscience, and it's also, they've done research into it, but they haven't shown actually conclusively how if Reiki does improve people. Clinical research does not show Reiki to be effective for the treatment of any medical conditions, including cancer, diabetic, anxiety or depression. Therefore, it should never replace conventional medical treatment. That is what people say. There is no proof of the effectiveness of Reiki therapy compared to placebo. So this is the issue with Reiki. But Reiki originally started with the idea from Japan, from a guy called Usui. And Usui was this guy who some people said he was Christian, he wasn't. He was actually a librarian who actually decided that he wanted to help people, and he had read into very much Shintobuddhism to come up with these. And when he came up with this idea, it was people in Japan where they couldn't afford medical care, was the idea that with Usui, he could actually help people be healed. Now Usui also, though he came up with this alternative therapy, Usui taught Reiki to only 2,000 people during his lifetime. 11 of these students continue their training to reach the Shintobuddhism level, a level equivalent to the Western third degree or master level. Now, the one thing idea is when people say about Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Master Reiki, these ideas were not created by Usui. Yes, the person who created Reiki did not create these master levels of Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3. Again, this has been created by someone else. Now, the person who actually transferred Usui's teachings, because Usui died in 1926, so Reiki actually is only just about 100 years old in its kind of infant. It's very infant as a healing methodology. Hayashi actually learnt under Usui, and Hayashi used these techniques to help people in World War II. So when World War II, while he was in the Navy and he was a naval physician, he employed Reiki to treat his patients. He studied with Usui in the early 20s. Remember, Usui died at 26. He only learned under Usui for about 4 or 5 years. Then he created his own actual Reiki traditions. So he actually adapted them from Usui. They weren't all Usui's. Usui's blamed the idea. Then he came up with some ideas to do with symbols. Now the symbols is then people come up with these Reiki principles. Again, all these ideas derived more from Hayashi, but then the next person is who it's then initiated to. So Hayashi then trained his wife to train the next person, who's called Hawayo Takata, who was actually born in Hawaii. Now, Hayashi wasn't allowed to touch women, so he had to train his wife. So Takata, because she was very ill, she was helped with her illness. So she brought this Reiki to Hawaii. Now Takata then was the next person who came up with these different ideas she was a Japanese American woman born in Hawaii, and she introduced Reiki to the Western world in the 1940s. Now remember, obviously, Japan was not looked upon very highly in the 40s due to the idea of Hiroshima of America, but then hitting Pearl Harbor. So the Japanese were not very welcome, and actually the Chinese were treated like Japanese prisoners in America. Something they don't talk about. They talk about other things of forms of horrible things that happened in America, but the Chinese were treated like they were like Japanese, even though they weren't. There's a whole history about it. So Takata was trained by Hayashi in Tokyo, became a master practitioner by 1940, and then Hayashi had learned from masterchoakoksui. So this is the trend of who you're taught by. This is where this comes from. This is called the training lineage. It's common among Reiki practitioners. So the original, within the tradition, Takata is sometimes known as the Reiki Grand Master teacher Hawayo Takata. She wasn't the Grand Master. The Grand Master who created Reiki was Usui. So first of all, we have this huge issue of Reiki being actually, there's a lot of not just the pseudoscience, there's a lot of pieced on information which has not been taught correctly. So the idea of Reiki is that you draw certain symbols in Japanese which helps with you. You're supposed to live by these 5 principles. Again, Usui had some of these ideas, but they were being embellished over the years by Takata and then by Hayashi. So the idea of someone being a Grand Master, someone being a master, and the idea is actually the origins of becoming a master Reiki practitioner was that the idea is you'd had been practicing after Reiki 1, Reiki 2, you'd been practicing Reiki for 5 years. Then you actually then did your master practitioner and then you became one. Now, I have these qualifications. Do I use Reiki to help people? No. And I'm going to explain what I use, because I find what I use, it goes more into something I understand the lineage with, and I also find it works